All right, everyone, we should be live. Let's make sure that's actually the case over on Rumble, of course. I do see that chat is working. Mulgara85 says clank. Saxon Violets needs to be a phrase for the black coffee drinkers. Lol, but clank is really fun. Yeah, you can do black coffee. You can do white coffee if you want to. You can do tea as well. Clank is equal opportunity. Hell, you can put a spoon in your beer and clank it around if you really want to, if you're really into that sort of thing. Panel 2411, clanking, good morning from Detroit. And Morgan Hevering says morning as well. Lots of clanking going on. Let's make sure we're live over on Rumble. I think we are. Yeah, okay, that was relatively quick. Yeah, they've got a new setting on there so that there is less of a delay and the feed is more stable. Seems to work so far. Tested it a few times. I've sort of looked at it both ways, checking it and not checking it. It does seem to make a difference, so they have improved. They should just offer that to every stream, really, because it is important. We've got lots of news to cover. By the way, the baby is upstairs as opposed to out and about on a walk or something, so you'll probably get some interference other than the cat flummoxing around today. That is very, very likely, so my apologies for that. I'll try to muddle through it. We definitely have to talk about the Trump v. Desantis bullshit that I see going on, and also the TikTok ban and other things. I have put them in order of priority generally, so that if I have to cut it short, as is very likely, the last few news stories are, they're important, but a little bit less so. I can always throw them in his videos tomorrow. Let's make sure that all the tabs are working. I think so. Do you think so? I guess so. Thank goodness. Lord save us. Anyway, we'll get right into it. The first thing that I wanted to cover was the obvious astroturfing of the Trump versus DeSantis thing. That's not to say that the average person that supports Trump or DeSantis is astroturfing. I support Trump. I'm certainly not astroturfing. I've been pretty consistent in my political views for a number of years, you may have noticed, and many others as well. Here's the thing, though. What's happening right now, and you hear the baby in the background, what's happening right now is that liberals especially want a messy primary for the GOP. They are not confident that if Joe Biden runs again, he can win. And they're certainly not confident that the other people likely to get in if he doesn't, that they can win either. They're worried that Trump will be reelected. I think they're also worried should DeSantis be should he be reelected. I don't think that DeSantis himself is disingenuous or an astroturfer. What I see, though, are people with TDS, some of which were presumptively paid off, attempting to astroturf animus between Trump and DeSantis voters. And the reason is clear. Again, I have my strong preference in favor of Trump over DeSantis. I've said numerous times now, though, if there is a fair primary and DeSantis is the nominee, I don't expect that to happen, but it could. I would consider voting for him. I don't have any personal grudge against him. There are a couple of things that I do have problems with, but again, in all honesty, I have several problems with what Donald Trump has done as well. Not speaking out early enough against tech censorship, for example. The CIA black site suggestion, the Syrian airstrikes, a few of the other things that he's done. So it's not a huge issue for me. What I think is the operative strategy is that the liberals and the TDS sufferers are attendant to this. They do overlap. We simply want a bruising primary. And the ideal goal that they have is that whether Trump or DeSantis wins, regardless of the person that it is, some of the other people's fans will have been turned off by animus towards the candidate. And so they end up gaining, a small but measurable advantage, 2 or 3 points in the general election, regardless of who is nominated. I do believe that this is the operative strategy. Now, there is one concept that would blunt this completely, which is that Trump, the presumptive nominee, takes on DeSantis as running mate. I think that they're calculating that his ego will not allow that to happen. And I happen to agree with them. I think that it's a long shot that would occur. Kerry Lake is more likely, and many people are perfectly happy with that. I wouldn't have a problem with it. Well, I like Rand Paul best. And if Trump were to die tomorrow, I would hope that Rand Paul got into the race, and I would definitely support him instead of DeSantis. I have my preference stack. Trump, should Trump not run, be incapacitated, whatever, Rand Paul. DeSantis is fine. Kerry Lake would actually be fine. There are others. There are some people who are not so fine, like Ted Cruz. I'm sorry, but he's too disingenuous. Tulsi Gabbard is like the ultimate whiffling, waffling maybe to me, and it really, really depends on talking the talk and walking the walk from here on out till 24. I think I'd vote for Rubio over Ted Cruz, actually. That may be a little bit strange to some people. Yes, little Marco, at least he would be funny. Ted Cruz is basically, he's the dude that goes to the party and he stands in the corner. So I don't think so. But yeah, I do love how people are trying to stir up discord between Trump and DeSantis fans. They're doing that for a reason. Don't be taken in by the bait. It's good to have a preference. Some of you prefer DeSantis. I know some of my viewers do. Some of us prefer Trump. I have no problem with DeSantis. And by and large, I don't see DeSantis fans as having a huge stick up their ass about Trump either. The goal by the liberals is to convince you and astroturf the concept that they have a problem with one another, so that if DeSantis does join, and that is not assured, but it is likely, then the resulting candidate does have that feel. You've already got Trump derangement syndrome. I think you have some DeSantis derangement syndrome now too, both from one another's groups, their inner core. The idea is to also have some people that are turned off additional to that core movement. So again, 3 or 4 points, that makes or breaks an election. That's all you need. Broken Sword. Good morning, Sticks. I've been trucking for nearly 6 years, and I love it. Your encouragement with regards to self-improvement helps a lot. Take my monies. Trucking does sound cool. You don't have to deal with people for like 10 hours at a time. You can always go, you can go into the trucker bar, the restaurant there, where someone that's inevitably named like Bertha or Hannah is behind the counter listening to old 70s standards and crying, thinking about how she could have left the one-horse town. King of Biltong, good morning from Antons in Roanoke, Texas. Hashtag Clank Nation. Our perpetual commenter, of course. Tori, a.k.a. TNT. I'm 32 in Minnesota. Dad, mom, and sister have TDS. How do I finesse this situation? Self-improve and make more money than them, and then show them your tax returns, I suppose. The Defamation League. Something happening April 1st. Whatever you do, don't sub to the Defamation League. They are releasing something new, I feel. Either that or it's an April Fool's joke a week early. Matthew Wasaki. TikTok will go the way of Habbo Hotel. Pools closed due to pedos and AIDS. I remember the Habbo Hotel raids. Oh boy, do I remember those. I was at the ass end of that. I did participate as well as with Club Penguin at the time. Oh boy, what fucking fun. I wish we could have those days back. I wish that 1 week out of the year you should be able to time travel. And I would go back to the Habbo Hotel days and just sit there on my ass on the computer laughing my ass off. And I'd be trolling ICQ chat at the same time. Backwoods Libertarian. I think Larry Elder would be a viable VP, but could make him AG. He is a lawyer, possibly. Joe, you do good, buddy. Sticks is sexy. Well, thank you, Joe. Gay references. Anyway, yeah, I'm not going to be taken in. I'm not going to join the I hate DeSantis thing. I think that there are questions that I have about his platform, etc., and I definitely question his strategic timing and finesse. But I don't have a problem. I don't have any reason to distrust him personally as an actual person, at least at this particular moment in time. That may change. It could change for Trump, too. Let's say he says, here's my running mate, and then Jeb Bush waddles out on stage like a turtle. That might be a bit of a non-starter. And of course, he did choose Pence before, so it's not necessarily beyond the realm of possibility. Honest Jerk. Good morning, Sticks. I wish I could watch live, but someone has to sell freedom to Texas Second Amendment for life. Oh, you sell guns? Pretty cool. Maybe I'll come down to the gun shop sometime and pick something up. I want to buy more guns when I'm back in the U.S. Next news story, TikTok faces full ban in the U.S. as CEO testifies before Congress. And he was, by the way, completely grilled up his ass. TikTok did not stand a chance before congressional hearings. And it's partially bipartisan. There are some leftoids that are like, there was that one, I can't remember his name, I think a representative. Well, the Republicans have no swag, so of course they don't like TikTok. Dude, you're locked, swag? What the fuck year is it? You're showing yourself for the middle-aged man that you are, first and foremost. You should have said straight bussin' and then broken out and started dabbing on them or something like that. Even that a bit outdated, of course, at this point. People want to ban TikTok for a fairly legitimate reason, which is that it's Chinese spyware. Here's the problem. And I always try to analyze things from a pragmatic perspective. Now, I don't go off into ideological la-la land and say, well, this would be a good idea. This would be wonderful. If it's got no chance of passing or the public simply won't accept it or something like that, it is not pragmatic to bother pushing the issue at all. And I choose not to take up that line. Let's look at the reality here. TikTok is a service that is in demand. If you attempt to ban it off of US devices, you simply say, okay, mobile carriers, etc., they're not going to be able to have TikTok available as an ad. What will people do? They will use a workaround, they'll use a VPN or whatever. It is inevitable. They will still make TikTok videos. They will still look at TikTok content. And there is literally nothing you can do. And partnered with that, I would say, again, think what you will of the cringe platform of TikTok at large. It is cringe. It's full of bullshit. It's full of baloney. It's run by Chi-Coms. That is true. Do you really trust the U.S. government gives a damn about your kids' well-being? I know that I don't. Back in the U.S., here in Netherlands, same thing. I don't trust any government to have my best interest or the best interest of anyone around me at hand, especially children. When I hear the think of the children thing, like the tagline here is, U.S. lawmaker says 16% of America's teenagers, or 5 million, use TikTok almost constantly as they experience depression and anxiety. Where have I heard that before? I seem to recall you saying the same thing about YouTube years ago. No, it's because the young are using it, and so they want to crack down on the site. By forcing it to be sold into the U.S. and then regulating it, they can regulate the content on the site. The only difference is that it won't be Chi-Coms doing it. It will be American government officials doing it. We've already seen with the Twitter files, etc., what they've done on other sites. They don't want the Chinese government to have the proprietary material and information about users because they want it. Facebook has been bundling it and selling it, by the way, to China now for years and years. What they want is for TikTok to become a U.S. firm. This particular instance of the original Chinese video app that is separate from TikTok itself under the parent company. They want control of it so that that material can be bundled. It'll still be collected, and then they can sell it to China. It's all about the money and the power involved. I don't trust them at all. I have no problem with the idea that TikTok should die. I would agree. It's a low info, vertical videos in super short format. That's interesting because I remember that the last generation fought for years and fucking years to raise the limit on the number of minutes that a video on YouTube and elsewhere, by the way, could be. And we fought and fought to have widescreen capabilities and better resolution and shit. Now, I guess the Zoomers have been convinced by clever corporate advertising that short form vertical videos are better. Oh boy, it's a step in the wrong direction. It's sort of like if human beings devolved back into some primitive hominid species that was incapable of controlling fire, I suppose, but banning it won't work. Sorry to tell you, much as I would like to say, yeah, it'd be great, TikTok stops existing, I don't think that's going to happen. If anything, it'll backfire. And the kids will say, oh, all of these old fogies in Congress, and the average age there is in the mid-60s, I think, don't like this app. Well, then it must be cool. There must be cool stuff to see there. Let me go and watch another influencer. Goldie Lush, look up the song Booger Eating Communist by Karma Bomb on YouTube. It's a funny roast song. I have to check that out. Cynic in Chief, personal questions. Has anyone ever called Liz Lady Warwick? Whose hair has Baby Sticksette inherited? Has Baby Sticksette started walking or talking yet? What are her favorite things to do? I'm not going to answer any of those. I keep my personal and private life strictly confidential. My personal life has nothing to do with my content. No offense. I mean, it's a fair question. I know a lot of influencers like to talk about their kids and they made their first big poopy today or something. I'm just not into that. My channel is 18 plus. I say fuck and stuff all of the time. Don't really want my daughter involved with my content creation. When she's older, much older, if she wants to go online and make content or something, that's fine, but she doesn't need to be tainted by that now. Silky Johnson, hey Sticks, what's your opinion of China brokering a peace deal between Iran and Saudi Arabia? What are the potential negative long-term implications? I think their plan will fall through, but they are definitely making an attempt. If they're successful, of course, that tilts the Sunni world away from the Western sphere, potentially. And, of course, Beijing Biden is impotent to do anything about it. Ozzy's Robots. From Kennedy to Biden, we've inexorably lurched left. With China now firmly entrenched in many aspects of society, how do we reverse this? Again, it starts with self-improvement. When you become reliant upon the system, you inevitably will lurch left, because that's the centrality that the left operates on. Educate yourself, build new skills, get together with your local communities and family, and try to do things under the table, off the books, as much as possible. That's the answer. Starve the system by becoming more reliant on yourself and those around you. The Grizzly. I'm from Michigan, and it's so much worse than you realize. In Kalamazoo, we have Bernie Sanders free college, i.e. state-mandated, tax-funded communist woke agenda. Not a surprise. And that's the homeland of Detroit, so it'd surprise me if that weren't the case. Mr. Wonderful, I am bitterly disappointed at how the Trump-DeSantis thing has played out. As a united force against today's nonsense, they are a powerful force. That said, I am a Trump or nothing kind of guy. Again, I strongly prefer Trump. We'll wait and see how fair the primaries are. That would be all I'm waiting for. Mike Rendell sent $50. Thanks, man. Always go to Sticks for stats. Clank on. Yeah, RCP, by the way, I don't know if it's just me or if other people are seeing this, seems to not have the polls actually on their main page anymore. You have to manually search for them now. Doesn't really make a whole lot of sense. Defying the meta. Trucking is not fun or cool at all. It is a horrible job, mainly because of government oversight and terrible companies. And yes, I know, I have been out there for 30 years. Well, that sucks. So it reminds me of that one dude, he does trucking. It's Bob Hickman. God entered my body like a body my same size, something, and he's clearly psychopathic, and he makes weird videos about motor oil and makes songs about random stuff. He's also flamingly gay and has a blog you probably should not go to because it's rather explicit unless you're into that sort of thing. He claims that the devil or God or something is ripping his skin off, and then he injects his lips with collagen, literally on one of his videos. Kind of a funny guy. Mungie, Milo pointed out that DeSantis has no charisma. This is, I think you mean charisma. This is a valid critique and will matter during prime time. It's something he needs to get worked out if he really plans to be the guy. John DeSlat, I wish I could time travel to January 2009. Buy $100 of Bitcoin. Would have no issues today. Yeah, I mean, I've thought about that too. Like, I had the opportunity to buy into Bitcoin when it was like 5 cents a piece, and I had a couple hundred. I'm like, well, it sounds kind of tempting. But then I realized in retrospect, what would I have done? As a young and dumb college kid, I probably would have sold it when it was like $10 a piece. So I would have made, a decent amount of money. Where would it have gone? I would have smoked it. I would have spent it on marijuana. I would have spent it on booze and marijuana, and that's about it. I would have paid off some of my student loan debt, but ultimately I would have squandered it. So it really doesn't matter now, does it? Hindsight is always 2020. Drew and Albane, payday, so a kitty only of fan support. One butthole, please. Honest Jerk. Sticks, you should make a book of your Sticksisms. It's a funny idea. Vu Viet Hong. Last time I forgot to tell you, this is Vietnamese currency. It doesn't worth much in US dollars, only 5 USD, but the bank will ask me less questions if I give you my money in Vietnamese dong instead of USD. I didn't know that. That's very intriguing. Well, thank you for the donation anyway. I just wish it was actual, like a piece of paper money from Vietnam, because I actually collect money from other countries, both old and new. I want to have a massive collection, by the way. I want to have like a big-ass wall frame with denominations from every country. Getting it from places like North Korea can be a little difficult since foreigners aren't supposed to literally touch the money. But Midwest Finest 95. Where's this renewed push with LGBT coming from the last couple of years? Feels like a cult at this point. Just feels artificially and overly propagandized. That would be the T component of it. It's being given artificial momentum by people who are not actually gay or anything like that at all and are simply trying to game the system for their own personal benefit. There are plenty of politicians causing this. Outraged Deer, what's your opinion on Catholic mysticism? Catholicism is a little too legalistic to have much of a prime mystic component. You'll find more mysticism, ironically, in some of the rural offshoot Protestant movements. The Grizzly. Our state just passed rubber stamped a bunch of anti-First Amendment BS. Gun control, permanent full mail-in ballots, despite the motion failing in the vote. In one election cycle, we went further left than Cali. Yeah, well, then you should definitely look into legal cases against that. The Copper Owl. As a bronze owl, I can be the idol of owl cult. Drexkin. I fully believe the New York DA intended to arrest Trump with TDS media like Roger Stone, get the perp walk pics to suppress his 24 chances. I also believe that they were coordinating with whoever was advising DeSantis. It's possible that there's a missing link there. I just don't think that DeSantis himself is in on the joke. I've said that repeatedly now for months and months. Sigil Stone 17 over on Rumble. People keep pissing and moaning, oh, it's okay for the USA to spy on you, but not China when it comes to TikTok. But everyone that's analyzed TikTok says the data collection is beyond even Facebook. I would agree with you. I'm just pointing out that it's not entirely an apples to oranges comparison, and that a ban on TikTok probably won't work. People will get around that ban because, again, a free market suppressed is a black market. All you're going to do is make it cooler for the cool kids. Metal Shred Freak. I hate TikTok. Lol. I also tried to do YouTube Shorts because of the algorithmic boost to show clips in my stream and draw people to Rumble. But the process for making vertical videos is such AIDS. Yeah, I don't even know. I mean, the YouTube Shorts is a half-assed measure, and they're denigrating 99% of their site's content, the streams and the regular form videos, in favor of effectively forcing people to make shorts. You know, when I get a better phone at some point and have a better recording setup, I might as well start making that shit too. Hell, if they ban TikTok, maybe I'll actually drag my ass onto the platform just to fucking troll people. That'd be funny. Hey, old fogey here. Old fogey 666 here to talk about gardening. You young whippersnappers wouldn't understand because you think vegetables grow on the fucking shelf, shithead. Sigil Stone 17. Back to China, Iran, and Saudis. China views diplomatic goodwill as a currency to be acquired and spent. What are they planning to spend this deal's goodwill on? Colonizing more of China, in my opinion. G Phaser. If TikTok gets banned, Elon should jump on with his own version. Maybe purchase the rights to bring back Vine to its former glory. Yeah, exactly. I mean, we laid the groundwork for TikTok now, didn't we? That niche was already filled by Vine, and Twitter decided to get rid of it. Elon should immediately move. He shouldn't even wait. Move immediately to bring back Vine, and people will use it. Christopher D, what's your opinion on air fryers? I have never used one. They sound pretty good by all things that I've heard about them. The Grizzly. My question is, how do we survive if half the states become full commie dictatorship by blind CNN and NPR listeners who nod their empty skulls at whatever Democrats say? Well, how do we survive if the other half of people are in states that become more and more tradcon, and eventually, you know, the only book in the school library is the Bible? So some of us who are more non-committal and nonpartisan are kind of between a cock and a hard place if that trend keeps moving. I don't think that it will, though. Ozzy's Robots. If TikTok is so bad, why is YouTube pushing shorts and Facebook pushing reels? No one cares about those. Seems like they're salty. They can't compete. Lol. I think it's more about the fact that the Western governments want that money and that data themselves and not have to go through a middleman because they like being the middleman. And so they want to push people on those platforms and or gobble up TikTok as a result of this. Because a lot of the younger people who they have not yet compromised because they don't yet have all of their user data, they're using a foreign competitor. As long as they were giving that same data to US firms, it wasn't a problem now, was it? We were warned briefly about sites like in the early days of Facebook and MySpace. Pretty soon it was, hey, I think that everyone should have to give their social security number in order to speak out online. You see this from like even the Gen Xers who should know better. They're still pushing that shit to an internet ID sort of system. Well, I think it would cut down on trolling. It would cut down on bullying and harassment. You've got bullying on the brain, dude. People have been bullying each other long before the internet existed. You'll excuse me if I don't think that TikTok is an existential crisis. John DeSlot agreed on trucking. I've been out here off and on for 20 years. It sucks, and it keeps getting worse. All right. Next news story. Rock Sicklinhammer 999. Parrots are still superior to cats. Squawk. And Nick Burgett. Enjoy a month of Twitter Blue on me. Take the rest and please watch the Dividers documentary. Or not. Thanks, Sticks. Thank you. I paid ahead for Twitter Blue for the first year, actually, in full. I thought it'd be useful. It does seem to increase growth. Next news story. Houston teen accused of paralyzing woman in Jugging robbery has $200,000 bond cut in half. Oh, so if you attack somebody and paralyze them, your bond gets cut. Now see what happens if you enter a federal building just to non-violently protest. I don't think that'll happen. This has to do with that the Joseph Harrell. He was doing a Jugging robbery. I'll try to explain it for people that aren't up on this. The Houston suspect accused of paralyzing a mother of three by body slammer during a Jugging robbery on February 13 had his bond cut in half, according to Harris County records. Joseph Harrell, 17, was arrested last week after police released surveillance video of the incident in which Harrell allegedly followed the victim 24 miles from a bank before body slamming her to the ground and stealing $4,300 in cash she had just withdrawn. After his arrest for aggravated robbery, prosecutors asked for a $200,000 bond, citing the fact that he had just been released on a $100 bond on January 26 for unlawful carrying of a weapon charge. Now, of course, I don't have a problem with people carrying a weapon, regardless of their age, so I don't really care about that. But it is interesting he got such a low bond. And so he paralyzed this woman, and now his bond has been cut in half. And of course, there's totally no reason why the U.S. crime rate is rising. This is Texas, by the way. This is forcing Greg Abbott, I think, to step in and look at Houston and other cities and their policing and their prosecutions, not without good reason, I think. To your Venus, what is your opinion of the herb dill? Absolutely indispensable for a number of dishes. Delicious in soup. Certainly delicious. You sprinkle it on top of deviled eggs. You can use paprika or dill. I like them both. People have their own preferences. I like dill a lot. Of course, you can't make proper pickles without it. By the way, most of the pickles in this country are either sweet or sweet and sour. There are very few actual sour, like dill-style pickles in the Netherlands. I don't understand it. They're delicious. Anthony Rodriguez. Good morning, Sticks. I heard that Desantis flip-flopped on the Russia-Ukraine war, speaking like a war hawk in the Piers Morgan interview. You heard this? I did see that, yes. He has it's not really a full flip-flop, but it's close to one after saying that Ukraine wasn't a great big priority for the United States, which is technically true. He got so much backlash, he kind of sort of walked it back and said, well, but I think that Putin's a war criminal. Well, I mean, that may be the case, but it doesn't look good when you have to walk things back. Happens to the best of them, but I mean, his campaign is really starting out on a good footing now, isn't it? The Grizzly. I'm not really a fan of the Jesus crowd either. I just use the left because they really try to abuse legislative power, like the Trump indictment that fell through. I don't want us to split in half with the red-blue Cold War. It'd be a really short war, just to put it in the most frank sense. It would be a very short war. I don't worry about balkanization. I think that's a bullshit. I think that it is a pipe dream of people who don't like the United States, mostly. Jezebel B, I got Brooklyn Dad Defiant to have a meltdown on his coat post. Huzzah! Congratulations. Thomas Weiser, you talked about switching to Linux and LibreOffice some time ago. Any more thoughts and recommendations on distros? P.S. My surname is pronounced Weezer. Oh, okay. No further thoughts on that, but yeah, I mean, when I inevitably have to get another computer, first and foremost, it'll probably be a desktop setup because I'll actually have an office by then, I think, and so it'll just make more sense. And secondly, yeah, I mean, if I can't figure out a way to get the older version of Windows onto the new machine, which might arguably take fucking more effort anyway, yeah, I'll probably switch. I'll finally be a Linux user. Tara Smith's Kitchen. I think all these short clips on all platforms are being used to brainwash based on how people memorize, and this is being utilized by every government. So not a bad point. Could be. Sigilstone 17 on Rumble. I think a TikTok ban would work because today's internet kids are morons that can only install apps real good. The script kiddie is long gone. Look how quickly that changes, though, the second that such a ban occurs. And a follow-up. The Klan was initially formed because blacks were running criminally rampant and the U.S. refused to prosecute them because of slavery. My, how things don't change and history will repeat. Yeah, also they wanted to be able to abuse former slaves as well. That's why the Crookshank decision existed. Red Raider Matthias. I live in Texas. Dallas, Travis, and Harris are solid blue counties, hence no-go zones. There's a reason why the suburbans and the red counties adjacent to these urban and blue areas are growing like crazy. Sort of like with Detroit. Some of the outer areas now they're fairly red. Hell Radio lives. We should probably expect more violent reactions from Gen Z at the threat of TikTok removal, like what happened previously with video games. Yeah, I just don't. Number one, I don't trust the U.S. government to police any content because they're clearly inept and corrupt. Number two, the ban, in my opinion, won't work. And number three, again, there is that comparison to a lot of other tech firms that basically do the same thing. If you want to get rid of TikTok, out-innovate them. Yes, you should bring back Vine. Make YouTube Shorts something other than a fucking goddamn joke, and then we're in business. Next news story. French unions hold first national strike since government rammed through pension reform. It's been a while. There is a full-on national strike currently going on, not that many 100 miles south of where I am, over in Vive la France. Yes, the French people are in mass protest mode. There have been protests for days, you will see. But now there's a national strike, and about half of the transportation sector is expected to be impacted by this. So trains and trams and buses and all those wonderful things that people in Euro-style cities literally need in order to do anything, they're going to be shuttered. They're not going to be existing. Public transportation in Paris is expected to be heavily disrupted, and 50% of the country's high-speed TGV trains will be canceled. Air traffic is also expected to be affected Thursday, with 30% of in-flights impacted at Paris-Orly Airport. Some of the country's largest oil refineries will also be blocked. Some 12,000 police officers will be deployed across the country, including 5,000 in Paris, in expectation of potential violence. Now, the only violence here is that you have a crazy autocrat fucking his own grandmother, figuratively speaking, who has decided to overrule the parliamentary will of the people of France. Again, whenever they want to do this, they just say, well, we can't do otherwise. It's so important that I have no choice but to be a complete tyrant here. Now, of course, you can say, hey, raising the retirement age does make sense. That's perfectly fine if you believe that. It kind of fiscally speaking does. The French retirement age is only 62, you will note. So it's on that sort of cigarette and a glass of wine, sort of that lazy sort of atmosphere that you get in like the, well, you used to get in the streets of Paris. Now you have to go to the outlands, I suppose. Paris now is a shithole. But that being said, if an overwhelming majority of people don't want that, and the legislature largely makes it clear they don't want that, and you decide to overrule them in an autocratic manner, you've got to expect that there will be mass protests. And Macron seems to think he can weather the storm. He doesn't get to run for re-election anyway, so he doesn't probably care. I think he's looking for another opportunity to crack some skulls. He remembers the good old days of the lockdown protests and how funny it was to see his fellow citizens suffer because he's a goddamn sadist. And now maybe he'll cling to power. Maybe he'll declare a state of emergency, declare himself the next Napoleon or something. I wouldn't even be surprised with someone like Macron. You can tell when he speaks, when he moves, the way he acts, the way he idealizes the world. He is a massive, egotistical, goddamn, cold, calculating bastard. Ozzy's robots, drugs, TikTok, etc. It's modern Darwinism in action. Yeah, if somebody wants to waste their time looking at TikTok videos or whatever, more power to them. Go and suffer. FFFF, new Depeche Mode today. Oh, goody. Also, Lana Del Rey as well, releasing her 9th studio album, I believe. White Bear 2, keep up the great work. Your daily show really helps the work week rock. Yeah, I do look forward to the weekends when I don't have to stream, though, in all honesty. My forte is more the standalone videos. It's what I did for a long time. I was reluctant to get into streaming, but now it's like, well, it's good income. It allows me to compress a lot more ideas into a period of time, and it is kind of fun. I like interacting with all of you, so, I get to answer questions and make statements about whatever people are interested in. I really am more of a standalone video. In all honesty, it'd be easier for me to make the TikTok shorts, which would be ironic. Yeah, 6X and Hammer career revival is me dancing around on TikTok. Can you fucking imagine? Bleach Killer 419, hey Sticks, when do you plan on returning stateside? Trump 2024. Whenever I get the opportunity. I would like to get back when it's warm weather so I can do a lot of garden rehab, because the garden in Rutland, based on the update pictures that I've gotten from my mother, is not looking too great. It looks like a pile of shit, actually. The entire thing will have to be rebuilt. Thankfully, that means it's an excuse to do more gardening. Mr. Twisted Frenzy. Hey, Sticks, I just joined the stream. This TikTok ban, is it being issued by the Biden admin or campaigned on by the Republicans? Both. Both parties. It is a bipartisan effort. I tend to be even more skeptical of things the government wants to do when they're bipartisan, though. Mainly because I've lived long enough to understand it's a good idea. The Grizzly. Expect the same thing in France to happen in the U.S. because supposedly pensions in the U.S. are supposed to run out by 2037, and that's coming up. I don't count on there being any pensions, Social Security, or security net for me at all, should I get old enough to be at retirement age. I do not anticipate ever retiring. I'm pragmatic. Inky, you underestimate how great you are at streaming those Sticks. Love your streams. Yeah, but it's also more effort because you're doing it live. Sigil Stone 17 on Rumble. The French are protesting and rioting? Let me check my calendar. Yep, it's a day ending in Y, and right on schedule, it will achieve nothing. It is a much larger strike and protest than anything you've seen since the Yellow Vests. So it is significant. It seems that a supermajority of the French population is pissed at Macron, and the protest could grow depending on how he reacts to it. Anthony Rodriguez, Tarl Warwick for president 2028. Wouldn't take the job because I'd have to go to D.C. all the time. I'd be worse than Joe Biden as far as going back home for weekends and shit like that. I would say, yeah. Can I call into work today and just work from my garden? Mesner Flux. Macron wrote his philosophy degree thesis on Machiavelli and Hegel. Not surprising, I guess. Not true. And comparing himself to Jupiter. We'll gloss over the next couple. First, next news story. SCOTUS Justice draws laughs during hearing on Jack Daniels' trademark infringement. I just wanted to weigh in really briefly on this one. This is a funny story, along with the Afro Man one, by the way. Should check out his new hit singles. A company has released a chew toy for dogs that looks topically similar to the whiskey bottle that's issued by Jack Daniels. And by topically similar, I mean that it's a rubber chew toy. It's not the same color. It's not the same lettering. It's not the same. Well, actually, technically speaking, other than the shape of the bottle, it's not the same in any meaningful way. They're still being sued for trademark infringement because apparently people are too fucking stupid to understand the difference between a glass bottle containing whiskey that you go into a liquor store to buy, typically, and a piece of rubber that is clearly not containing any liquid and which is clearly in the pet section of your local store. This is a frivolous lawsuit by Jack Daniels in this case. It should be laughed at. It should be ridiculed, and it should result in no further action. Quite clearly, again, it's in the pet section. It's a chunk of rubber. It only looks topically similar in the design of the quote-unquote bottle, and that's basically the only similarity that you have. By the way, you do hear the baby complaining in the background, and so I'm probably going to end the stream early now because I don't think that it's going to be able to go any further. Just really quickly, though, Afro Man was sued by the cops that raided his home and found literally nothing, no evidence of kidnapping, which was literally the claim. And then there's a Financial Times article saying we need to create guardrails for AI. I'm just going to keep this very brief because I have to. There are no guardrails for AI. If you attempt to constrain its usage, it will simply break through that attempted constrainment because other people will inevitably innovate. It is inevitable that that will happen. It doesn't matter if ChatGPT or whatever the fuck Microsoft builds or Google builds has guardrails in it to prevent it from being used for some random purpose. At some point, somebody will build an AI program capable of training other AI, and then it's all over. There are no more guardrails. What they're trying to do is create a corporate monopoly over it by scaring people into believing that that is necessary. That's all that they're doing here. And then the final news story, just breaking. This was obviously breaking the other day. Pentagon says an Iranian drone wounded 5 U.S. service members and killed a U.S. contractor in Syria. The drone targeted the facility housing the U.S. personnel. This is on Biden. Get them out of Syria now. I partially agree with this. It's on Biden for continuing the war in Syria for absolutely no legitimate reason. It is also on the vast bipartisan core of members of Congress who voted down Matt Gaetz' bill, which he proposed a couple of weeks ago, which would have removed the remaining troops in Syria. The fact that U.S. service members and a contractor were injured or killed in this strike is the result of us fucking being there in a country that does not want us there. Now, you can say, well, it's for a good purpose. They're doing counterterrorism. Okay, the ISIS threat that was in Syria that was partially created by the United States pandering to FSA terrorists was eliminated largely by Russian and Iranian involvement, not by U.S. involvement. Trump decided to stand down and let them take care of the issue, and they did a good job of it. And then they were the ones that were expending the extra money to launch the missiles and the sorties and so forth. One of, by the way, Donald Trump's greatest successes, he really did put ISIS back into the bottle. I mean, we were expecting it to drag on for decades. Trump ended it in a couple of years, effectively, partially by knowing his place and saying, look, that's not a country we have any strategic interest in. But Russia sure does. I'm sure that they'll help their good friend Bashar al-Assad by flattening the fucking terrorists, in part armed by the Obama administration. It worked. We're not welcome there. Assad, like him or not, he is effectively a dictator. He's an authoritarian. What the fuck is the difference between having the one largely secular authoritarian dictator and having some oligarchy of FSA members? Well, I think the former is oddly enough preferable. Certainly better than having ISIS wandering around. We shouldn't be there. I'm not surprised that an Iranian drone would be deployed. By the way, the Iranians are selling those drones to anyone that wants them anyway. So how the fuck? I mean, some people are saying, well, Iran just conducted itself as an act of war on the United States. Oh boy, how predictable. Did I not say that one of the reasons they wanted the troops to sit there was to be sitting ducks to be targeted so they could have a justification for any particular war they want in the future? I mean, it was obvious at the time that's what they wanted. And I wasn't the only one that pointed that out, by the way. BW, I think TikTok ban alienates some young voters. Yeah, but both the Democrats and the Republicans appear to be largely on board with the concept. And that's what worries me. When I see the Republicans and the Democrats agreeing on something, it's like defeating Matt Gaetz's bill to remove troops from Syria or something like that, or to pass the Patriot Act. It's something that you don't want. It's something bad. That's the only time that these morons actually agree. And then Sigilstone 17. To be honest, if you consume Jack Daniels on a regular basis, you probably can't tell the difference between a bottle and a chew toy. Yeah, so see, you should definitely have that toy available, because then all of the people that are constantly drunk will accidentally buy the non-alcoholic chew toy, and then they'll be sober for a day, and then maybe they'll rethink their life. Mr. Wonderful, an entire U.S. Navy ship and crew was captured and held by Iran under Obama, by the way. Great photo op for Iran. I do remember that. Okay, I do have to go offline now. Clearly, the baby is not going to calm down. And I did manage to go through all the stories. I wish I could have talked more about Afro Man. Maybe I'll do a one-off tomorrow about that. That's about all. Peace out.